Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, to sort of pick up where we left off. Congressman, good to see you again. Thank you for being with us. What Andrew was talking about is interesting and troubling. First of all, how does what happened today affect two things? Number one is Matt Gaetz's comment that the president should pardon all sorts of people, which he probably will do, including himself. And how does this affect what happens on January 20th of 2020? Because the president, as we know, faces a lot of exposure, both civilly and criminally.
Well, I would say this. It doesn't literally impact whether the president can pardon himself or whether that will be enforceable in court. In fact, I'm quite confident that's unconstitutional. One of the premises behind our Constitution is that no one is a judge of their own case. We are bound by the rule of law. We're a nation of laws, not individuals. If a president could commit any crime he wanted and simply pardon himself, it would be self-defeating. So I don't think that would be upheld, but it may be tested. If the Southern District of New York were to decide, for example, that having asked a judge to sentence Michael Cohen to jail for a campaign fraud scheme in which individual number one coordinated and directed the scheme, and individual number one is Donald Trump, and they were to bring charges against him when he leaves the White House, the Trump defense team would undoubtedly raise a pardon if he had given himself one in his defense. But I don't think the court would uphold that. And nothing that happened today will affect the constitutional analysis. Whether it will affect the analysis of a future attorney general or Justice Department, I think they will have to look at the case-by-case basis, the egregiousness of the president's conduct, with the president's priority that the country heal the great divide. And I don't envy the difficulty of that decision.
Let me ask you about the other area of your expertise other than the law, and that is intelligence. Often these other pardons have been instances in which one could argue that the prosecution was unfair, or one could argue that the person has paid their price, or one could argue that the pardon is of no consequence. None of those apply here from the perspective of intelligence. Michael Flynn is a man who understood intelligence. He'd worked in intelligence in his military career, and he was in charge of and responsible for matters of intelligence, which arguably were compromised during his short tenure as in service of President Trump.
Well, unquestionably. And Ali, as you pointed out, when Michael Flynn lied to the vice president, and the vice president then went on national television and misled the American people, the Russians knew Michael Flynn had lied because he had talked directly with their ambassador. That made him vulnerable to compromise. He could be blackmailed. This was indeed the concern that Sally Yates raised in bringing this to the attention of the administration, that he was now subject to compromise. By giving him a pardon now, imagine the signal that sends to our Russian adversary, that essentially the president can make Russia's problems go away by dismissing a case against someone who had lied on their behalf, who had concealed these illicit contacts. It just makes a mockery out of our system, and I think it demonstrates that it can be exploited by hostile foreign powers.
So what is the remedy for that? Because there are a number of Americans who say, look, let's put this ugly chapter behind us. But a point that you and I have discussed in the past, particularly about the decision to impeach President Trump, was not that it may have been a popular decision at the time, but that it was something that you and others felt was incumbent upon members of Congress to do if there was conduct worthy of impeachment. The same thing applies here. What do you do when there's conduct worthy of prosecution and people for whom it is important to pursue in the face of a president who seems to be ready to pardon those around him who were involved in things that may have led to his own election?
Well, first of all, one of the benefits of a system of federalism like the one we have is that anyone in the Trump administration, even who gets a pardon by the president, can be prosecuted by state and local authorities. That pardon does not extend to those investigations and prosecutions. So there is always the possibility of accountability no matter what the president may do. It's also, I think, incumbent on us, even if we can't prevent this president's abuse of the pardon power, to make sure that the power is not abused in the future. I've introduced a bill, the Pro-Democracy Act, that makes a number of reforms. And among them, it would say that a self-pardon is unconstitutional, so it would unconstitutional, so it would put Congress on the record. It would also provide that in a case like Flynn, where someone is pardoned who's implicated in a case in which the president is a subject, witness, or target, that the investigative files will be provided to Congress, so Congress can scrutinize the extent of the wrongdoing. And it also makes clear that a president can be prosecuted for using a pardon as a form of bribe. You keep quiet for me, you lie for me, I will pardon you, that is a prosecutable crime. So we can deter its abuse, even if this president is beyond those remedies.
Congressman, good to see you as always. Thank you again.